I'm Rodger Grossman, and I wrote, direct, and produced What We Do Is Secret. I went into this project knowing that it was going to be tremendously challenging, and knowing that a lot of people were really going to be very protective of Darby and his legacy and what this movie meant. And you know, if I had come to somebody else's movie about Darby Crash and the Germs, I would be incredibly skeptical too, because Darby was very important to me, and LA punk rock is very important to me. You know, the scene is important. I mean, punk rock is important to me. It's all important to me, which is why I felt like I was the guy that could actually make this movie and do it well. So, you know, I understood people's concerns, and you know, all I really want to do is do it the best that I could and make it real. And you know, that's what I did, and I think people are really responding to that, and that's why it has been successful so far. And so I'm very excited with the response that we're getting, and I feel, you know, a lot of validation that, you know, and comfort knowing that we did do the best that we could with it, and we made it real. This is definitely, you know, a movie from a fan's perspective. I think, like, when you look at this movie, you can tell that I love this band, and it's a loving portrayal. And I did do a lot of research. I did hundreds of hours, or maybe thousands of hours of original research. You know, I tracked down everybody that I could from the scene. Some people that aren't with us anymore, that have passed away. You know, and people were very generous with their time, and very open. You know, Pat, you know, I think I've got 10 hours of interviews or 20 hours of interviews. I mean, I've got a stack of interviews with Pat, who really opened up and was incredibly generous. You know, Michelle, Darby's best friend, was my partner on this, and you know, we did, you know, she helped me write the script, and you know, she's amazing. I mean, she was there every step of the way, you know, not just in the rewrite process of the script, but also in, you know, pre-production, production. You know, people were very, you know, really wanted this movie to be done right, and I really wanted to do it right, and so it comes from a real place. But it also is mindful that, you know, you have to make a story. It's not a documentary, it's a narrative feature film. And so there's sort of a line that you walk there when you take something and you craft it into a movie. So is it 100% accurate? No. But does it get it, you know, absolutely 100% at what the spirit is of what happened? Yes. So, you know, I'll tell you something that I actually haven't told anybody else before about this. The original structure of the film was very interesting, and I was very proud of it. The idea was that all the interviews were being done from the perspective of Penelope Spheris doing The Decline in Western Civilization, and that the film is actually told from the 3/4 mark in the film. So we start with these interviews, and you feel like you're protected because it's all, you know, being told in the past and through an interview's perspective. And then at the 3/4 mark, the interviews stop, and you're in real time. We get to the point where the interviews are being made. Well, Penelope was wonderful and very supportive, but she didn't like that. So, you know, she came to the editing room, we talked about it, and she just didn't like the fact that I was using her work as the framework of my work. So what we did is we went back in when we made this movie over 3 different production periods, mostly because we ran out of money and we had to keep raising money and keep shooting. So we shot 15 days, ran out of money. Shot 3 days, ran out of money. Shot another 3 days. But what it really gave me time to do was play with the structure of the film. And one of the things that I did is I took out that conceit of telling it from that 3/4 mark, and we shot all these interviews, which up until that point we hadn't shot yet, and we shot all these interviews, and so it sort of restructured the movie. I just couldn't stop. You know, I couldn't give up on this movie. There were too many people that put their faith in me. I had too much invested in it personally, and I believed in the movie too much. And, you know, it always kept moving forward in my head. You know, I had a grand plan of how this whole thing was going to play out. And it ended with the movie being done. And I wasn't going to give up on that plan. You know, I always saw, I was always positive, I was always proactive, and I always felt that it was going to end well. The story was going to end well. And, you know, at a certain point, it got so bad. There was so much bad news, and it was so difficult that if it didn't have a happy ending, I mean, I would have lived my entire life looking back at that moment that I gave up on this movie and hating myself for it. I know, that was interesting. At one point, somebody in the audience said, did you refer to those as musical numbers? And it's interesting because, yeah, I view them as musical numbers. I studied film and I studied musicals, and I love musicals. And I studied musical structure. And, you know, one of the key things in a musical is that there has to be just the right amount of musical numbers. Not too many, not too few. And you see some musical films really make a big mistake where they try and make the whole movie music. And it doesn't work. You know, you can't, you know, maintain your attention span that long. You know, it wears out the audience. So you can't have too many musical numbers. You can't have too few, because you always have to know it's a pacing issue, right? But also the musical numbers have to drive narrative. So when I approached this movie, I said, you know, this is, you know, essentially a movie about music. You know, these musical numbers need to drive narrative. It's the same concerns, so just approach it as you would a musical film. So that's what I did, and I think that's one of the keys to the movie's success, is that it's not like, you know, there's narrative and then it stops for a musical number and then you pick up the narrative. The whole movie is narrative. It's just some of it is expressed through music, and some of it is, you know, traditional drama. So I hope so. I really wanted to be in Montreal. I love Montreal, and I think this is a great city for this film. It's a very, you know, young, exciting, you know, hip city, and I think it would do very well here. So when I get home, I'm going to talk to the distributor about releasing it here in Montreal. I hope so.